back, Rocket fans, to the Rocket Refuel. We have a quick update today on what we think the projected depth chart is going to be. Unfortunately, Coach Candle does keep that close to the chest until basically game day. I have with me Dan Rocketman Savage.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
And Nate, the Texas Rocket.
How's it going, everybody?
So I'm going to keep the intro short and sweet. We're going to turn it over to Dan, and he's going to start with the special teams.
Okay, so there hasn't been too many changes as far as special teams go. We return our punter, Emilio Duran. We return our kicker, Luke Pollack. He had like 87 points last year. He was pretty dead nuts. He had a great season. Kind of something Toledo fans have been searching for a few years. We went through a thing with an Australian punter and kicker, and it's really nice that we're returning our battery there this year. Even kickoff return, Jacquez Stewart, preseason possible All-American. He was awesome last year. He's back. Our punt returner is back too. Beal kind of had a starting role last year, but then he got banged up, and Junior Vandeross and Jawan Newton went back and forth doing punt returns last year, and they're both back. So I think special teams, I'm looking to have a good season this year. There's not really much else to say. Like you said, Jason Candle does not let the fans really know. His media availability is not exactly everywhere. He's not talking to everyone right now. He's kind of just getting dialed in. So long snapper, who knows? We'll see in a week here when we face off against Duquesne. But then to the defensive side. Defensively, Toledo is probably not supposed to be the best unit in the MAC this year, but very close to. Northern Illinois and Akron both have good defensive units, and Miami is the prohibitive favorite with their two linebackers, Ty Wise and Matt Salopek. But Toledo's defensive line is absolutely loaded. I think the one that's going to get the most national attention is Darius Alexander. He had 4 sacks last year, but 3 passes defended. So he likes to get that paw up there, 3 bat downs, as you will. And Jeremiah Peters, who was hurt against Eastern Michigan last season, so he only played about half of the season, but he had 3.5 sacks in 6.5 games. Kayvon Butler's coming back. He was transferred back from Kentucky a few years ago, but he was Judge Culpepper's backup. And DeAndre Rajan, he had 40 tackles and 5 sacks last year. So our defensive line is absolutely loaded. We've got a few other depth pieces there too. Travion Ford, a Missouri transfer, and Martez Pointer. He also got some time last year in mop-up duty when we went through a couple injuries on the D-line. So I really, really like that unit. Definitely probably the best defensive line unit in the conference. At linebacker, there's Big Dan Bolden. He's coming back. He was second on the team in tackles last year behind Dallas Gant, who we have to replace. He had 94 tackles, forced fumble and recovery. He's going to be that guy in the middle that kind of runs the defense with Max and Hook in the back. And, that's kind of a spot that Toledo was not great at. We weren't awesome at stopping the run. We kind of hung our hat on pass defense. So he's going to need a little bit of help this year. We'll see who fills in there. Jackson Barrow is on the team. He's someone that we've seen a little bit play a little bit. And then the West Virginia transfer, Lance Dixon. He was the number 1 overall linebacker in his class in 2019, like the 18th or 19th overall player in the country. And he went to Penn State in West Virginia, and now he's here. So if he can fill in, maybe be a little half Dallas Gant for us, that'll be awesome at the linebacker position. And the big piece we have to really replace on defense is Quinyon Mitchell's spot at corner. But we actually had another corner that played with him pretty well last year. Is Emmanuel McNeil Warren a safety or a corner?
They're listed as safety, but I don't know.
So maybe we play 2 safeties, but he had a huge breakout season. 68 tackles, 2 picks, 4 forced fumbles. The dude just has a knack for the ball, and so does Maxon Hook. Preseason Senior Bowl guy. Maxon Hook is an absolute beast, and he's been playing with an injury the last few years. So if he's fully healthy, I expect him to have a huge, huge impact on the back end of our defense there.
And obviously, we want to get him plenty of tape because we want to see him play on Sundays.
Oh yeah, and he will. You can just tell he's got the mindset. He's got that killer instinct, which we love to see.
Like he said, everybody's hungry this year.
Mm-hmm. And who else is going to be hungry with him? That's the question. Avery Smith is one of the guys that's supposed to be, stepping up. We got a couple transfers. Andre Fuller out of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I love to see the transfers up. That shows that they have a lot of good on tape, and we'll just see if it translates. Zeke Blake, he's a senior transfer from Youngstown State. So we'll see if he can fill in very much. And then Jadarius Perkins, a 4-star transfer out of Florida. So those are some names just to keep an eye on. We don't have the depth chart yet, but the defense should, I think, be fine. We might not be a top 25 defense in the country, but probably still a top 40 unit. And if the offense doesn't turn the ball over, they won't have to worry about it. They'll be fine there. 20 points a game or whatever should be good enough to get a lot of wins.
And the other interesting thing is we talk about Quinion a lot with the secondary, but we also lost Coach Corey Parker. So it'd be interesting to see how everybody adjusts to our player and coach that exited.
Yeah, our new corners coach was at Cincinnati with Sauce Gardner, and he was the defensive backs coach there. And then he was just at Ohio State, his most recent stop. But that dude's coached up some good players. I don't expect too much of a drop off, or at least a regular drop off. Maybe a third rounder back there, not a first round pick.
As long as we're not getting bird on 15-yard cushions like Ohio State, I'll be fine.
Well, and under Corey Parker, the team really cleaned up the penalties. So many times teams would just go deep over the top on 3rd and long, and we would hack them before the ball got there and just give them a free first down.
Right.
So clean that up, and I like our defense this year.
Yeah, I like Alexander in the middle. That 3'10", 6'4", big body. I'm excited about it. I think Maxon Hook and McNeil Warren back there are going to be real solid. I mean, obviously it's hard to replace Quinion, but I think they're going to step up and be big. So
and like you said, a team isn't just one player, but we have a lot of defensive players returning that have reps.
Yeah,
which is great.
I agree.
Now to offense, where the number one question is our offensive line. You graduate or transfer out all 5 starters, minus the tight ends, which I don't really count as an offensive line position. Sure, they block, but they're not your tackles, guards, and center. We bring in a few guys. We got Rod Orr from Florida State, Jacob James from Ohio State, Alan Jones Jr. from Prairie View A&M. And these are big dudes, 6'6", about 300 pounds. Some cases even a little larger. Carter Foudy, Schweibert, Gales. I mean, we don't know who the starters are going to be at this point, but we only got a week until the season starts. So we're going to see that unit. I don't know if Duquesne's going to be able to test them, but if he can keep Tucker Gleason clean in the pocket, the wide receivers are going to go absolutely off this season.
I think there's a chance you're going to see a slow start from Toledo for a few drives, just, figuring things out.
I think the thing that helps is Gleason isn't like a, sophomore, junior that never touched the field before. I mean, he's got quite a bit. Last year, not a ton, but 22, he got a considerable amount of playing time. So, I mean, he's known this offense for 3 years, been in it. I think if we can protect Gleason, I think our offense could be really dangerous.
Sure.
Yeah, he was in that locker room with Carter Bradley and Daquan Finn, 3 years ago.
Yep.
And that's after the room he was at Georgia Tech. So the dude can ball, keep him clean, and he's got a little bit of a scrambling ability too. He could run in high school. So we'll see if he can stand up back there, but if he can, these wide receivers are the best unit since probably 2017, when we had Cody Thompson come back and Deontay Johnson and John Bay Johnson. Like, that team was absolutely loaded. There are the studs now, maybe not as tall of a wide receiving core, but there are some studs on this wide receiver unit. Jawan Newton, almost 700 yards last year, 9 receiving touchdowns. Junior Vandeross, almost the same amount of yards, 4 touchdowns. Our big tight end, Anthony Torres. I mean, what else could you say about that man? He really broke out last year.
What's interesting is you're seeing it at the next level too, where there are a lot of teams that have that tall stud receiver that can go up and grab it, but speed's the game now, and Toledo definitely has the speed. So running that spread offense, good luck keeping up.
Dan, mentioning Tucker's wheels, he back in 22 when he played those kind of like last 3 games, he had 42 attempts rushing and almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. So you definitely were spot on with that. Kind of a surprise run game with him.
And I love a pass first quarterback, but can still be dangerous outside the pocket.
Yep.
And I think he can be that.
Oh, for sure. And that's the thing too. It's like I think he's got more arm talent than Daquan did. I think we kind of knew that all along, but the game planning defenses would have to do for DQ. That's why he stayed as the number 1 quarterback. And Gleason's probably a little shiftier, so that's probably why those numbers came, because they didn't expect him to run. But now that is on tape, teams will figure that out quick. As long as he can throw for 300 yards and keep the mistakes limited, I think that'll be good enough.
Keep him in the pocket until Miss State. They won't have any film.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if we can just shut those teams down and win the first 2 games, 28-0, whatever, show them a little of the playbook, that'd be great.
A win's a win.
Mm-hmm. And also in that wide receiver group, we've got Thomas Zyros, a local kid from Toledo. He had a catch against Ohio State for a touchdown. He's a tall dude. Larry Stevens had a decent season last year. 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jaden Dotton, Don Munnerlin, like that group is deep too, but only losing Maddox. I mean, really, that group is insane, and maybe the stats won't even fully reflect it just because the ball needs to get spread around. But on second and short and some first down shots early in drives, I can really see this offense putting out a higher point potential compared to last season. And then the last room is really the running back room. And a 1,400-yard rusher, Penny Boone's out the door and on to UCF, where he'll be their second or third running back. Good luck to him. But Jacquez Stewart, who really was the starter coming into last season, he's back again. I mean, the dude's a lifer. He's a 100-meter Florida kid, fast as all get out. We saw against Bowling Green what he could do in space. He had a good long run in the bowl game too against Wyoming. Rocket Ryan, I think, put it best during our last full season preview. He might be a little small to get, really like rest on him to get 20 plus carries a game, but he's still going to be super effective. And that other guy that could be taking the bulk of the carries is Willie Shaw. He's been in the program a few years now. Not a ton of stats because you got a guy with 1,400 yards and Jacquez Stewart in front of you. What are you going to do?
I feel like Candle's been high on him since he's gotten here, to be honest. Like we're just kind of waiting for him to kind of break through. Yeah.
So I hope he can come out and have a good season, maybe a 1-2 punch. And then also in the running back room, we've got Chris Pichak, who I don't know much about him. He's an Indiana transfer. He's a senior. So he might, have some valuable experience to at least spread around in the room. And then Mike Drennan, who is a Kentucky transfer, but he played last year a little bit for us. He had a fourth quarter touchdown drive against Texas Southern. So we've seen him a little bit. He actually had a great cutback. The hole wasn't there, and he just totally rerouted it and had like a 15-yard scamper for a touchdown. So
no offense to those big boys down in Texas Southern. I like their dietitian, but
Yeah,
Everybody had a touchdown drive that game.
yeah. And even behind Tucker Gleason, John Allen Richter got in that game, and he had a touchdown drive as well. Actually, you know what's funny about the new video game that's come out? We have a freshman that's behind Richter and Gleason on the depth chart, RJ Johnson III. I've seen a lot of YouTube clips of people using him. Very Daquan Finn like. He's a run first quarterback. He's out of Detroit, just like DQ was. So he might be our future down the line. But I just think it's funny that people aren't using Gleason; they're using the freshman.
If you ever play Texas Rocket in NCAA, it doesn't matter the overall of the quarterback. If his speed's above 80, he's going in and he's playing.
I'll be honest with you. I actually, when I did my dynasty with Toledo, I used Caleb Osborne. So
Okay.
he had the fastest speed quarterback, so I put him in.
Well, if we get out to a big lead against Duquesne and show all our quarterbacks, maybe the game can adjust some of the speed we have in that room. I think we got a pretty quick room there.
Yeah, it's the game itself is pretty fun. It's I actually want a Heisman with Stewart, so no pressure on him, but big expectations. So.
Have you simulated us against FCS Northeast yet?
I customize the schedule. We played Michigan, so
hell yeah, just like real life.
Right.
Nate, make sure you put that on that resume when you apply for Toledo coaching.
Listen, the one thing that is interesting about the game is that so I made custom schedules, and if this tells you anything, how much the game hates the MAC.
It's realistic.
I played number 1 Michigan. I played like 3 of the top 5 teams, and I was not ranked after week 4, and I was just baffled. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to have to do to get Toledo ranked.
Yeah, that seems realistic, to be honest.
But the other thing I found interesting is I listened to 97 won the ticket from Detroit, and they were talking about the top contenders for the non-Power 5, and Toledo was not in the top 5. So I thought that was kind of a little bit of a slap. Miami, Ohio was on that list. So
I've been listening to about 8 to 10 hours of podcasts a day, and most of them, the national ones, only give like a top 5 for the G5 spot. We haven't been named once. Miami's been maybe mentioned once. It's their traditional Boise, Memphis, Tulane, Liberty.
So I don't want to throw a lot of shade, but like I've seen a lot of MAC predictions as well, and it's like, are we just ignoring the first 4 weeks for Miami of Ohio? Like we're just gonna, kind of consider where they should be after that. It's like,
yeah, you know what? I heard that they originally, when the Miami's schedule was scheduled for Northwestern, which they went to Northwestern and beat them 2 seasons ago. They gave Miami like 5,000 tickets or something, and Miami has a big Chicago fan base, so they like filled it out. Like Miami had a huge section. Now that they're playing at that Lakeside Stadium, they took the number down and only gave Miami like 300.
Wow!
But just in general, I think that Northwestern environment's going to be, not tough for Miami to go in there and win. The only problem is it's going to be 30-mile-an-hour winds off Lake Michigan, so their passing game might be nullified. I could see that game being 6-3. But, we'll see. Notre Dame, that's not going to be easy.
No.
UMass, not going to be easy. Okay.
Look at this guy. So we were kind of discussing a little bit of like maybe a player coming off the bench that would make a big impact this season. I think defense, there's a few questions there, but maybe on offense, do you guys have a pick of a player that might come off the bench and have a pretty solid year for us?
I'm going to go Allen Jones Jr., offensive lineman from Prairie View. He's experienced. They played Texas Southern last year, the week before we played them, and they beat them in overtime. So anybody that can take out those big boys at Texas Southern, I like. He's 6'6", 300 pounds. If one offensive lineman can stick out, that'll be nice for my preseason prediction that we'll have 3 offensive linemen make an all-MAC team. So any O-linemen that show out, good for you.
I wasn't expecting you to pick O-line, but I absolutely love it.
Yep.
Give the big boys some love.
I'll go Jaden Dotton. Kind of like that, more of a bigger body. Let's just say we got a receiver 4, if potentially behind Stevens, Newton, and Van Der Rost. Could be that deep threat that we need to win some games. So I'm gonna say Dotton.
It'd be nice to have him and our big tight ends in the end zone. Just throw it up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Let him go for it. All right, everyone. I think we're going to call it a day, but we really appreciate you tuning in. And only one more thing to say. TOL.
EDO.
EDO.